Hi, it's Steve Morrison here, and you're listening to Chat with Chaps, chatting Millwall, come rain or shine.
Good evening, ladies and gents. Good to see you all. This is the midweek live as we're heading into the international break. Thanks for joining us. To my left, it looks like Angelo's just got into a time capsule, and he's just sort of gone back sort of 20, 30 years. It looks much more younger, much more handsome. It's not Angelo, sadly. Obviously, our wishes go to Angelo. A bit of sad news. He's in a really sort of bad way at the moment. I mean, some say it's he's in so much pain at the moment. It's almost worse than pregnancy. It's that bad. Of course, serious bout of man flu, and unfortunately, ladies, you probably won't know how bad this is. Gents in the chat, I'm sure you know how bad this is. He's got a real bad case of it, which means he can't be with us today. But we do have a special guest. The TikTok legend, the guy who's putting Millwall on the social media map, the one and only TikTok George. How you doing, George?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. First time on the live show with yourself and Steve, and yeah, looking forward to get into it. Looking forward to it.
Excellent. Cheers, George. Some people say you spend more time editing than you do actually watch Millwall. So tonight we'll that'll be true, or you put that rumor to bed. So let's move on. But to beneath me, some say this guy, when he hits the dance floor, he's got quicker feet than Roman Esse. The one, the only, the legend, Disco Steve. How you doing, Disco?
Yeah, evening, Joe, and what an introduction. Being compared to Romain.
Tell you what, I'm running out of them, mate. I'll be honest with you. I'm scraping a barrel here, but
No, you keep them coming, mate. That's really. I'm in the company of greats like TikTok George. I've got to take every little bit of compliment I can. So Romain's footwork, I'll buy that tonight. Thank you. Lovely.
Love that. Excellent. So, guys, in the chat, good to have you. I can see the numbers are picking up, which is excellent. I appreciate that. First of all, let's say hello to Carl. Carl Bracey, how you doing? Carl says, who's ready for the boring international break? Oh, my God. I tell you what, the first day or two feels like okay, doesn't it? Then after a while, you just can't wait. You start climbing the walls. Alex S, I can't believe it's 2 weeks on the trot now. Evening all. The bloody break has come at the worst time possible. Tell me about it. Hughesy, evening chappies. How are you, mate? Jeff, good to see you, mate. Good evening all. Evening. Harry says, evening, lads. Great to get the 7 points, but I'm disappointed we didn't beat Stoke. They were there for the taking. Harris killed the game by bringing Honeyman on, but also understand why he did it. We will touch on that, Harry. So very, very good point there, mate. Glad to see psychedelic wallpaper back at Disco. It definitely brightens up our reading, doesn't it, Harry? I must say.
Cheers, Harry. My missus won't be so happy though.
Man flu is worse than childbirth. I feel your pain, Angelo. Jeff, completely, mate. Hope you're well. Alex says, Joe, please don't assume Angelo's flu gender is 2024 for you fascists. Working brilliant. And Connor, good to join you, mate. Good for you to come on. Evening, hope you're well. Okay. So, lads, first of all, we'll start off with Disco. Disco, got some stats here I'm going to throw at you. So, obviously, we drew 1-1 against Stoke on the weekend. Got some stats here. So Millwall lost only 1 of 11 league games versus Stoke previous to this game. So we won 6 previously, drawn 4, never lost in that period, which is really good. Millwall also the last 4 away league games came against teams with the letter S: Southampton, Sunderland, and Swansea twice, which is interesting. Some stats for Stoke. Stoke had won 5 of their last 9 home league games. That's more than they'd achieved in the previous 19 games at home. So we're hitting a nice bit of purple patch, nice bit of form at home. And Stoke were winless in their last 4 league games against Millwall, failing to score in every match. So really, 1-1, it's not a terrible result when you come to think about it. What's your thoughts on the performance? And was 1-1 a good result in your eyes?
Yeah, bloody hell. First and foremost, Joe, you can tell you was with Chris at the weekend with them stats.
It's rubbing off on me. What can I say?
Yeah, there was some corkers there, wasn't there?
Well, wait till my hair turns white, and I'll be in full Chris Chapman mode.
What was the one about S's? You said about S's.
So our last 4 away league wins have come against teams with the letter S. So it's Southampton, Sunderland, and Swansea twice. Apparently, he believes that's right.
Well, listen, look, I've got to say, I think one of the good things boring Gary Rowett did for us was we always seem to have a good results against Stoke. I'm not sure he ever lost to them, did he? And I think we won quite a few of them, more at home than away. We did win with that Zian goal once away, which I remember being at. But
was that the Preston game? Was it? Yeah.
No. Zian scored. It was against Sarkic. Was in goal for Stoke on the day.
Oh, right. Sorry, the Stoke game. Sorry. Yeah.
Through and he put it in the corner.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
So we had a good record against Stoke. But I'll be honest, I was going there when we did the score predictions before the Burnley game. I think I said draw, win, draw. So I wasn't far off. I always thought Stoke was a tough game. I think it's never been an easy fixture for us to negotiate. Tell you what, it was bloody freezing there. I don't know. I think it was across the country. We had like a grey, low cloud mist. My mate was saying at the game the country was swarmed in this weird weather. But it was bloody freezing there, and I didn't have me warm coat on. So I was bloody freezing. So was very welcome for Coburn to get a goal and give us something to cheer and jump up and down about. So I thought it was a decent point. I think somebody said in the chat before they were there for the taking. I think the game could have gone either way, in fairness. I thought it was a good point. Disappointing when you go ahead to then give it away and the way it was given away. But I think overall, on the back of a very, very hard week, and I have to say, I'm not into this pampering footballers too much. They play too much and you've got to look after them and what have you. But in fairness, 6 days, in fact, I think 5.5 days, we played 3 games. That was a tough old schedule for us, and especially the way we do play with the high energy. So decent point, and pretty much what I expected. So I'd say, we could have won it, but we could quite easily have lost it. And I think a lot of people at 1-1 thought they might then go on and get a winner. So I think we'll take that point and be happy with that, I think.
Yeah, nice one, Disco. I appreciate that. And sorry, you're feeling cold. Maybe you've got to change your trousers. Get rid of those flares. That nasty draft.
Get a draft up.
Hit up your ankles. Yeah, exactly.
I did.
Exactly. TikTok George, how are you, mate? What was your thoughts on the performance? I presume you managed to watch it. Obviously, probably not live, but I'm sure you watched it on a stream or something, didn't you? What's your thoughts on the game? And do you think 1-1 was a fair reflection of the game?
Yeah, the dodgy fire stick came out for that one. Don't worry, the dodgy fire stick came out of that one. And I agree with Disco, and also Mark in the chat where he said, to be honest, after the Burnley and the Leeds result, he thought that Stoke could have been a potential banana skin, and I do agree with him. I think if you look before the game, wins against great victories against Burnley and Leeds, and then you go away to Stoke, and these are usually in the type of games where Millwall would go and lose. And I also think on the basis of the game, I think first half, I think we were good, and in second half not so good. Maybe the formation change certainly had an impact on that. But on the basis of the game, I think if there was a team more likely to go and win it, it would have probably been Stoke. I think they were more threatening towards the end of the game. So say seven games unbeaten now, and with our fantastic form, 4-1-0 wins in a row before that Stoke game, you would have certainly taken a point and say on the basis of the game, we've walked away with what I would say is a good draw, I would say, away from home.
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, 7 unbeaten, 13 points for the last 15. And our defence has been spot on, hasn't it, George, as well? Because, I think up until that goal conceded, we went 6 hours and 59 minutes without conceding a goal, which is incredible. What did you make of our performances the last sort of like 4 or 5 games and defensive displays we've had? I mean, a lot of that is down to, you could argue, defence, but I would say the midfield, the attack, everyone's working hard to sort of like be tough to beat. We've got our tactics right, don't you agree?
I agree, and I actually think we've been really hard done by in terms of the schedule. If you think about it, we played Sunday 3 p.m, Burnley. Then we had a Wednesday night game against Leeds, and a game the following Saturday, 12:30 away at Stoke. So in terms of the schedule, it doesn't really get much tighter than that, does it? Really? And to churn out the results we have is remarkable. Really, we haven't lost since before the last international break. Cardiff away was the last one we've lost, and we've picked up some really good results. So that the 4-1-0 wins in a row. Obviously, we're not going to win every single game 1-0. We knew that was difficult, but to do it 4 times where we've won 1-0 with 4 clean sheets, I thought it was brilliant. I mean, if I think the Plymouth game with the Romanese goal at home, you like to think we should beat Plymouth at home considering their away record, but we got the job done there. Then the Swansea game, it had a 0-0 written all over it, and then we've ended up stealing 3 points at the end, which was fantastic. And then the two home games against Burnley and Leeds, who are obviously right up towards the top end of the division, we know where they will almost definitely be in the top 6 come the end of May. To win those 2 games, where listen, I think the Leeds game more than the Burnley game, we soaked up a lot of pressure, and defensively we were so sort of strong, resolute, and say it was 2 really good results. So that's why I wasn't really too. You can't really be too harsh on the boys because of the tight schedule. To then go away at Stoke and get a draw, you can't really be too harsh. But say very happy going into this international break for sure.
Excellent. Cheers for that, George. Disco, what did you make, first of all, the starting lineup? We knew there was a few changes happening because of the tight schedule, as George mentioned there. But out went George Saville, and in came Caspar. Was you quite surprised to see, first of all, George Saville being rested?
Yeah, but sorry, Joe, just before we go on to that, on the back of what George is just saying, can I just add as well, let's not underestimate, Stoke went to Blackburn and beat Blackburn in the week, and look, Blackburn have had a little bad run, but they're flying. They go to Cardiff and win 3-0 or 3-1 at the weekend. What a bloody league we're in. It's unbelievable, isn't it? So they're no mugs. And the other thing I wanted to say was on the back of what George was saying about the Leeds game. Jesus, I don't know if people have watched the highlights of Leeds versus Plymouth and Leeds versus QPR. And I'm watching highlights and thinking, how the hell did we beat these lot? Or how the hell did we limit them to so few chances? Because they just look like a team on fire. And as Bomber said, they are a great side and they will be in the mix without a doubt. So talking about how good is our defence, that tells you to limit them to so few chances. Let's be honest, they had hardly any leads, as did Burnley. Absolutely superb. And to be fair, Stoke didn't have that many either, so we are doing brilliantly defensively as a team. In terms of the changes, I think we were on last week. I said I thought he would definitely play, because a lot of people were asking, will Saville play 3 games in a week? He has previously, and I thought he would again. And I thought Bomber just thinks Saville is too important to us. So I think, look, it was bold, but I think it was refreshing that he could take the chance of putting Wintle in place of Sav. And I think we're going to come on to it. I thought Wintle did brilliantly for us and surprised me, actually. Looks a better player than I thought he was. And look, Bradders, I don't think anybody could have predicted that he would actually start, maybe come on, but to start, that was a really bold choice. And I do think a little unfair on Langstaff, even though he's played a lot of games recently. But it was a bold change by Bomber. And look, it definitely worked. I think, as George said, I think we actually looked a bit better first half with a 4-4-2 versus the 4-5-1. It was bold by Bomber and it worked out. And I think all those games in 6 days, I think it was needed to shake it up.
Excellent. Cheers, Disco. And George, what did you make, first of all, of the 2 up front going to 4-4-2? Was you sort of pleasantly surprised? Did you see it come in? What's your thoughts on that lineup?
I thought it worked to an extent, to be honest with you. Certainly surprised that Tom Bradshaw came straight into the team after weeks out injured. Wasn't involved in any of our last couple of games, straight into the starting 11, and so we only got 45 minutes out of him in the end. I thought we were very open. It was an open game in general, but maybe not having Honeyman in that number 10 position, George Honeyman just doing George Honeyman things, just running around, giving us energy in that middle of the park. You could see we were a little bit open maybe. But I like the two up front. It reminded me of the Steve Morrison, Lee Gregory days where we'd play two up front. This time with Coburn and of course Bradshaw. But we certainly created more chances. We got a goal off the back of our goal came in the first half as well. So it'd be interesting to see what he does going forward. Obviously, George Honeyman, I assume he took him out because he needed a rest. And we've got no one else who can really play behind the striker. So he just went with two up front instead. So it'd be interesting to see what he does in the next game after the international break, if he sticks with the 4-4-2 or he brings Honeyman back in. I think more likely the latter. I think Honeyman will come back in and it'll go back to the 4-2-3-1. But yeah, I'd certainly like to see it more. And having that sort of big man, little man partnership, it's sort of a staple in our history. We've seen it before plenty of times with different strike partnerships over the years. So yeah, for sure. I did think it worked first half.
Excellent. And of course, we ended the half being 1-0 up. 42nd minute, Josh Coburn scores from a Aziz cross, which I think takes a deflection of Bradshaw before it lands to Coburn George. Firstly, what did you make of Josh Coburn's goal? Secondly, his performance, and thirdly, how important is he to this Millwall side having Josh Coburn fit?
It was a proper striker's goal, a proper striker's finish, I would say, where quick free kick taken. Aziz delivers the ball. Slight bit of luck with the deflection on the cross, but it's where you want your striker, isn't it? When the ball's coming in the box, you got Bradshaw making that sort of near post run, gets in front of the keeper, maybe gets a little nick on it, and Coburn is sort of where you want him, in between the post for the tap in, and it was a proper striker's finish. And I thought Coburn was impressive. I like to think that Neil Harris rates Josh Coburn. I think Neil Harris is more than likely the one who wanted Josh Coburn at the club. Say obviously the rumours over the summer that we wanted him for a very long time, and eventually we've got him in. And say three starts, and 2 goals. You can't knock it. That's a very good record so far, and it'll be obviously difficult if he can keep that up. But if he can, I think we've got to sign him permanently in the summer. I really do, because I think he suits the system. That's one thing about Josh Coburn. I think he suits the system, whether that's a one person up top or he goes with a partnership. I think Neil Harris really likes him and really thinks he suits the system. So yeah, very, very impressed with Josh Coburn at the weekend. Obviously, still getting back to full fitness as well. Of course, you have to remember.
Excellent. Cheers, George. And Disco, what's your thoughts on Josh Coburn? I mean, obviously he took the goal really well. I felt, as George said, it's a bit of a striker's instinct, getting in the box, getting that in the right areas to score that goal. But what did you make of his contribution so far as a Millwall player, and how important is he in this Millwall side? Obviously, Middlesbrough fans will talk about his previous injury record. You know, he's often in and out through injury quite a lot. For a young person, it's quite concerning, really. But when he's fit and when he's able to play, as George says, in George's eye, he's quite an important figure in our team, and probably Harris's favourite striker. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely spot on. Look, echo a lot of what George has said there. I think point you make, George, about he can play in a front two or on his own is definitely true, and he's proved that already. He's not fully fit, as you say, at the moment, so he's only going to get better, hopefully, if he does get fully fit. All-round striker. I know there's people, Chris said in his one of his reviews that look really frustrating that he's on loan and we haven't bought him. But look, I stand by. I think we did want to buy him. I don't think Borough were prepared to sell him. I know everybody's got a price, but I don't think they were ready to sell him. So what do? Do you walk away, or do you say, look, getting him for a season is worth it? And I think he's proving for us right now, he's absolutely worth a season loan. I'd love to get him permanently. I'm a bit worried we won't because he's got so much to offer, but not just to us, to possibly anybody. But look, yeah, one I would definitely want to sign. And probably one of the best bits of news over the last week is Borough, who've been struggling to score goals, have scored 9 goals in 2 games. So you're like, you don't need a striker.
Well, I was doing a live with chaps at the time, and I tell you, every time Middlesbrough scored, I was punching. Yeah, go on, 3, 4, 5, come on, exactly. The more the merrier, absolutely. Well, let's go to the chat, guys, because obviously it's going to build up quite heavy otherwise. So Oscar says, "Evening, Jets. Hope you well, Oscar. Hope you're good." Connor says, according to Ben HD, we are a team with the most points out of the championship from the last international break. 14 points in 6 games, I believe. You're absolutely spot on. And I think up until the Leeds game, I think Neil Harris, this has been in charge of Millwall, has accumulated the most points in the championship. I think second were Leeds by a point. That might have changed now slightly because we drew against Stoke, but he's definitely up there. Carl says, I have man flu as well. Hope you get better soon, Carl, mate. Sorry to hear that. Mark said, Mark Murphy, hope you are, mate. To be honest, after the Burnley and Leeds result, I thought Stoke could have been a bit of a banana skin, and whatever we think about the team changes, the point was still a good one. I think you're absolutely spot on there, Mark. I was fearing the worst as well. It's just it's the Millwall way, isn't it? You end up beating all the teams that you feel you shouldn't really be beating, and then the ones where you feel you should be beating, you end up slipping up. So you're absolutely spot on there, and I think a draw was a very good point. Alex says we're now 7th with the bookies for promotion. Okay, that's impressive. I'll tell you what, Alex. When I was doing that live with Chris, at one point we were like 4th in the table. Obviously, we kicked off early, but just seeing us 4th in the league was so special. And Alex also says, and Borough scoring 9 in their last 2 games, so they don't need Coburn. Exactly. This is what Disco was just saying earlier. Carl says, I was disappointed we beat Burnley we beat Burnley, beat Dirty Leeds, and then we had to have one draw, which was supposed to be the Eaters game. Yeah, exactly. But I guess what we're just saying there, Carl, as well, these are the games we tend to slip up at. So to get a point and keep us unbeaten for a few, another game, I think that's a good point. Oscan says, I hate international breaks, but I'm glad we have one now and the boys can rest after the immense effort, but against Leeds and Burnley, and hopefully we can be back stronger against Sunderland. Absolutely spot on. Absolutely. Carl says that we have to sign Coburn permanently in the new year. I agree. Oscar says, Carl, I have a gut feeling we will. He's the best striker since Super Neil Harris.
Yeah.
Aziz has an XG of 1.9 with 4 big chances missed. Sofa score, really? I thought it was more than that, but he needs to take one soon. That's interesting. I think, again, in the last sort of couple of games, you've seen him having some real good chances. I thought he had a really good chance against Stoke on the weekend, but he seemed sort of slice his shot, and it wasn't really a shot or a cross, was it? So it went past the wire of the post. But hopefully he'll get his scoring boots on soon. I think he's a sort of player. If he scores one, you'll probably see him scoring a few after. He's more of a confidence player, isn't he?
The disappointment so far with him, and look, I think Chris said in his review that, look, he's doing brilliant, but he does need to put one of these chances away, and I agree. But probably the one disappointment for me so far, I'd heard and I've seen on his YouTube stream, he's got a bloody good left foot on him, and he hits some absolute corkers.
He does smash them.
I know. Outside the box yet, in aim, that sort of thing. So,
yeah, I think exactly. He hasn't had those sort of clear shot chances of it. Yeah, he's had one go. I think at the Den. I saw him cutting in once with his left foot, but it sort of went slightly wide. But you're right, he can ping a ball with his left foot. So hopefully we'll get that chance against Sunderland. And Jeff says, unfortunately, boys, if Coburn does well for us this season, I can't see us buying him, as Borough will either keep him or will be priced out. Hope I'm wrong and we side him. You're absolutely spot on, Jeff. And I think it doesn't help the likes of us singing his praises and raving about him, because obviously the Borough fans and whoever's connected to the Borough hear us talk about him. I'm sure that will definitely add a few more pound notes to his price tag. Staying with you, Disco, half-time substitution. George mentioned it earlier. We then bring Honeyman on for Bradders and go to the usual 4-2-3-1 formation. We then looked. We didn't quite look so attacking in the second half. We almost reverted back to our old defensive side, get behind the ball and stuff, which it allowed the tide to change a little bit. Because I think in the first half, where we looked like we were more on the up and we looked more of a threat than they did, second half was a different game, different half completely. And of course, in 60 minutes, Gibson scores his goal from a header. I just want to get your thoughts on that goal we conceded, and if we could try and sort of dissect it a little bit. What do you make of that goal, and how bad was our defending on that one?
Yeah, I think, look, it was disappointing, and any set piece, when you give it away, you're always going to be analytical and critical of your players if they've lost their man, etc. I mean, in fairness, Stoke had tried that a few times, and they've done it in a previous game as well, haven't they? They've scored a similar corner. So it's obviously their technique So it's a bit worrying. We should have been prepared for that.
Is that whipping the ball or in the front post?
They all came deep, left space, and went into really good tactic. It would work for us actually with Cooper and Tanguy going in, etc.
Well, Andrew always says it, doesn't he? He always talks about the importance of us having Cooper running in rather than sort of waiting by the keeper.
Correct. So in fairness to Stoke, it's a good set piece that they did well. Look, I couldn't really tell watching it on the day it was up the other end, but when you've seen it played back, look, there's a range of things. I'm going to be a bit controversial with my view here, but there's first and foremost Honeyman. I think you look at him, he's on the post, and you think, well, does he need to be on the post or should he be out wider for that? One, somebody coming into that space, and two, being out to get the low cross in. But look, he must have been put there by either the agreed setup or Jensen. Coburn is in probably too deep a position. You tend to think, could he have come forward a bit, in that they were all charging in anyway? And when the ball does come in, he's actually stood a bit static and does nothing. So you think, oh, that's a bit slow and lazy there, where he could have done better. But my controversial comment is going to be, which I don't think many will say, but look, he's great. He's fantastic. He's one of my players of the season, and thank God we have him. I think Tanguy needs to have a look at himself there. It's very, very difficult with an attacker knowing I'm going to go there and you've got to watch when's he going to go, how do I keep with him and keep pace with him. And if anybody you'd back Jaffet to do that. But he does get half a yard on him and in front of him, and you think that shouldn't happen. A defender needs to either be alongside him, in front of him, or what they often do is not foul, but often just put them off, don't they? By body contact, run, or blocking, whatever. Yeah. So I think Tanguy, look, it's a combination. But at the end of the day, if I was a player, I'd be saying, well, he's your man, Tanguy, and he's got in front of you and scored. Yeah. He'll blame Coburn and Honeyman, and it'll go on. But it was a disappointing one to give. But I'd also say a good set piece from Stoke, in fairness.
Yeah. Nice one. Cheers, Disco. George, what's your thoughts, sir? Do you agree with what Disco said? I mean, if you were to dissect that goal, I'm sure you've seen it many times on your dodgy feed. Who would you blame? Would you blame Tanganga? Would you blame Honeyman? What was your thoughts on that whole defensive setup there?
Yeah, following on from what Steve said, I think there's several players really in that sort of area which could have done better. I think Honeyman at the front post. It's harsh maybe to blame on Honeyman because he's about 5'0". Tanganga ultimately is the one marking the man, and then you've got Coburn who sort of just stands there and does nothing. But as I say, our defending from set pieces this season in general has been pretty bad. We've conceded a lot of goals. You,
George, sorry to interrupt you there, mate. Whose job is it, or who decides where Honeyman stands? Because you've said it, Disco said it, I think it as well. He's one of the shortest players on our pitch. And he's almost taken up the role of where Fleming used to be at one time, when he used to clear so many of those headers from that near post. Even Steve Morrison before him used to take up that position quite well and clear headers out. Whose idea was it to put him on there? Is that normally done by the management, by Jensen, or does Honeyman took upon himself to take that role on? I mean, first of all, how does that work out?
It must be a tactical thing, or it must be something maybe they do on the training pitch. If I think to myself playing football, right, whenever I play 11 aside, it's always either the two fullbacks or the shortest player on the pitch goes front post and back post. And then you've got your big guys in the middle who can head it out. So that's what I think what's gone on here. I think Honeyman, who's one of the, say, shorter players on the pitch, has probably gone front post. And he's come out to go meet it, and unfortunately he's just sailed over his head because he's about 5'2", bless him. But there's obviously several players in that box who could certainly look at himself and say, "Listen, I could have done better for the goal." And set pieces, certainly defending set pieces this season has been poor. So that's, I think, something we've got to be working on the training ground, surely. Yeah,
it was interesting because after that, I think we defended about 3 or 4 corners. There's quite a few in that game, weren't there? And you see straight away that Coburn then took that front post where Honeyman was. And I think there was on 2 occasions he heads the ball clear without too much trouble either. So you can see it's an error, it's a mistake we made there. It's such a shame because, that could have been another 1-0 win, couldn't it? But you live and learn, don't you, George? And I suppose it's one of those sort of things I'm sure they'll be looking back at in train, looking at videos where they could improve and stuff like that. So hopefully they don't make the same mistake again. Moving on, we touched on the formation earlier. Are you a 4-4-2 man, George, or are you a 4-2-3-1? What's your thoughts on the system change, and would you be happy to see us play 4-4-2 or start 4-4-2 and then maybe change if need be? What's your general thoughts on that, what you've seen so far?
I think it's important to have a balance sort of both, where you can play both ways. Not a lot of teams, maybe the best teams have different styles of play and different formations which they can play. And I think it's important that we sort of experiment sometimes and play a different way, a different style, with a different formation. And I was happy with the 4-4-2 on Saturday up until half time. I did think it was quite open. The game was quite open, maybe because we were missing Honeyman in that middle. But we created a lot more chances than maybe we usually do. And then we went to 4-2-3-1 second half, and unfortunately it didn't quite pay off for us. I say we was definitely worse in the second half than we were the first half. But we've played 4-2-3-1 majority of this season, basically every game this season, and it's worked quite well for us based on where we are in the table right now, and the performances, generally speaking, have been above average. So I think it's important that you can play both ways, and with the players certainly we can, because you've got Coburn, Bradshaw, Ivanovic, Langstaff can all play up front. You've got Honeyman who can play in the 10, even out wide if he wanted to, as we saw under Gary Rowett. So that's what I think.
Yeah, excellent. And Disco, what's your thoughts quickly on the formation change? Are you a fan of the 4-4-2? Do you want to see that back again? Or are you someone who you feel, actually, you know what, as George said, we've done quite well this season, the 4-2-3-1. Do we revert back to how we played previously and stick to that?
No, look, I don't think anyone would be against two up top. And I think, as George said, first half, we looked a little bit more dangerous, and the goal definitely came about with having two up front, didn't it? Bradshaw making the decoy run, making a nuisance of himself, and Coburn getting in behind him. I agree with George. We looked a little bit more open, and my worry is if you go 4-4-2, you're going to be a bit, more exposed in the middle of the park. We've got legs in there, we've got workers, so they can do it, but it will put pressure on us. And I'll tell you what, Joe, it'll be quite interesting. If he chooses to go 4-4-2, that then restricts the midfield places, doesn't it? Where we've got an abundance, central midfield, where we've got an abundance of players. If you go 4-2-3-1, you restrict the strikers where we've got an abundance of players. So,
good point.
Who would be Bomber Harris right now? It's a tough gig, So,
I know.
Like George said, probably being able to mix it up is the best way.
One of the obviously areas you mentioned about midfield, and I think we all say that against Stoke, Ryan Wintle had a very, very good game. Won a lot of plaudits from fans, saying how well he played, covers a lot of ground. And I think what's surprising of a lone player is that he works very, very hard. Like, you can see, normally lone players tend to kind of give you 60%, 70% really, are too scared to kind of get injured or don't want to overcommit in case they, but he seems to sort of work his socks off for us. So there's so many times he's been sprinting back and trying to press the goalkeeper and stuff like that. What do you make of his performance as a lone player? And do you like to see him playing more often? Obviously, it will be to the detriment of either Savile or Denor. So what's your thoughts on him, Disco?
Look, really, really good. He surprised me. The early... It's interesting, isn't it? Players come on and get a few minutes and you make a judgment on him. He didn't do much, didn't look much of a player. But he's slowly, the game time he's had, he's started to impress. And like you say, you cannot knock the guy for his commitment and hard work, effort. He's a Millwall player, isn't he? That without a doubt. Gee, he's quite fast. He's got a bit of pace about him and a bloody engine on him. So where we talk about less in midfield, he could be a player there. I'm at a point now where put him in place of Savile, I'm not too concerned. I'm saying, no, I get it. No, I'm not saying I want him in place of Savile.
Yeah.
Savile's my first choice at the minute.
But you're not against it.
If he's in, he's all right. Look, I'd imagine, did I see, was there an article he was saying he hopes the loan is extended? Is it till January and he's hoping, was it him or was it another mid?
I'm not sure.
Midfield.
It could be him. I haven't seen it, but you could kind of half understand why. I mean, there's no surprises there.
So yeah,
Exactly. He's not too happy at Cardiff, is he? So maybe he's pushing for that loan move to extend or permanent move. Who knows? George, what's your thoughts on Ryan Wintle's performance? I'm hearing that he's a good egg in the change room. Apparently, a lot of the players are warm to him, and literally from day one, they're all saying what a good person he is, and they all like him. He's good to have in the change room. He's a good team player, and his performances in the last couple of games have shown that he deserves to play at this level. What do you make of his performance against Stoke? And are you against him starting more often?
No, I think it's important that you use your squad, you use your assets, and you rotate regularly, especially in the Championship when you've got as many games as we do. To play Denor and Saville every single week is impossible because fatigue. One might eventually get injured, so having Wintle there as an option is certainly good. And previously at Crewe and then Cardiff, after that, he's also been a captain there. He's clearly a leader. He's clearly very good for the dressing room. Like you said, I'm going to be honest. I actually gave him I gave him a bit of stick after, I can't remember what game it was. It might have been the West Brom game where I actually gave him a bit of stick and I said, listen, I'm not sure. It was his first start and I was like, I'm not really sure. I don't think he played very well. But in the last couple of starts he's had, you can see what he offers, and what he does offer is he's got an engine. He offers a lot of energy. He's very quick. He's not as good as Denor or Saville, I would say, in terms of that. Denor likes to look for the ball, he likes to get on, he likes to spray it. Saville's sort of another leader in the team. He likes to break up play, can contribute with set pieces, etc. I don't think he's as good as them, and I do believe that he's brought to the club simply because of the injury to Billy Mitchell, and we just had to get another body in that midfield. But when he does start, in the last couple of games, I have been impressed. For sure, he's certainly starting to win me over. And of course, it's only a loan till the end of the season. He's obviously fallen out with the manager or the old manager because he got sacked at Cardiff. And if he's really enjoying it and he loves the club, then for sure, why not? I'm always welcome to a player who's getting on really well at our football club, for sure.
Excellent. And George, staying with you for a second, you touched on squad rotation there, and if you read an article on the Southwark News, I think Ryan Leonard spoke about it being a very, very tough week for him and the players, playing 3 games in a week, and the importance of utilising the squad and rotating the squad. Some fans are against that. Some fans want us to kind of play the strongest team, week in, week out, and they don't believe that players should be rested and things like that. I mean, what's your thoughts on squad rotation? Are you a fan of it? Are you all for this sort of rotation of midfielders, attackers, so to speak?
Yeah, well, listen, if we look back towards the start of this season, Neil Harris was playing the same starting 11 near enough every single game. There wasn't really much rotation at all the first few weeks, was there really? But as injuries and sort of fixture congestion has caught up to us, naturally we were always going to have to rotate the team. And say it's always, I think it's important to rotate the team for sure. If you've got a squad for it, which I think we do, we've got enough bodies in the building. Then the likes of Saville, who plays near enough every single game, 90 minutes, then goes internationally and plays. It's almost impossible. So eventually you're going to have a Wintle to come in and take his place for a game. At left back, say Joe Bryan can't play every week. We've got Danny Mack there who comes in and does just as well. Up front, we've got plenty of different options in Coburn, Ivanovic, Langstaff, Bradshaw, etc. So I do think the rotation is certainly important. And what's interesting to note is obviously Ryan Leonard there spoke about how the fixture congestion is obviously extremely tiring, fatiguing. He made 4 changes after the Burnley game, 4 changes for the Leeds game, and then another 4 changes for the Stoke game. So I think you've got to give Neil Harris credit because he's rotating his squad really well. And because of that rotation, we're getting points. I'd argue if he went with the same starting 11 against Burnley, Leeds, and then Stoke, we might not have come out of those 3 games with 7 points. We might not have. We might have lost to Leeds and then lost to Stoke. So I think you've got to give Neil Harris credit for his rotation of the squad.
I love that answer. Cheers, George. Appreciate that. And Disco, what's your thoughts on squad rotation? We've spoken in previous weeks about, Andrew's mentioned about the importance of squad rotation as well, hasn't he? Are you a fan of it? Do you want to see our squad utilised? Are you happy to see certain individuals sit out for the better of the squad and the team.
Yeah, look, I do, Joe. It's the modern game, as George has said, and you do need to look after the players and be, careful with their minutes, etc. I think I balance it and say rotating for rotating's sake. I'm a bit like, whoa, hang on a minute, well, he played last Saturday, so, I'll swap it for next Saturday. And I'm not saying Bomber does that or will do that, but that I'm not keen on that. Look, 3 games in 6 days, you absolutely had to use your squad.
Right, yeah.
2 things I'd just say, though. Firstly, big shout out for bloody Ryan Leonard. Playing all 3, and I think has he played every game this season so far? I think he has, hasn't he?
I believe he has. Unless George tell us otherwise.
Look at him in terms of injuries in the last few years.
Yeah,
and I say it carefully. Sorry, touching.
Yeah, let's not jinx it. Yeah,
shit, my fault. But how good has he been? Absolutely colossal in terms of minutes he's played and the way he's played and what he puts in. First class. The other thing I'd be thinking is we talk about rotation. I bet the centre halves, Cooper and Jaffet, think, well, what the fuck's this all about? We're playing every game. Aren't we supposed to get tired at all? Now, I wouldn't dream of wanting to change them at the moment. But isn't it funny how certain positions, all managers won't rotate, but certain positions you do rotate. So is that more physically demanding on those sort of players, or is it more trust in those? Are they fitter? Who knows?
I think it's your first point, really, Steve, isn't it? I mean, defenders, centre backs probably cover the least amount of ground. I mean, they do have a lot of the ball, a lot of possession, but you compare the fullbacks who are kind of up and down, wingers having the track back, midfielders supposed to go box to box, strikers are running the channels. Centre backs probably cover the least amount of ground, I would suggest. So probably that's why they get away with it a little bit.
Centre half is looking at you now, Joe, saying, "You cheeky bastard." I
know. And the other half would probably agree with me, saying that's why they play there, because less running around to make, But no, it's interesting you say that, and that could be a big part of it as well. So let's go back to the chat, guys, very quickly. I'm just conscious it's going to build up otherwise. So where are we? So Gary, hope you are, mate, says. I think this is means like Bradders. Bradders was a curveball, but we all knew he would start once fit. Yeah, Harris definitely seems to like him. Alex says we've got to talk about the pen that wasn't given. Looked stonewall to me, but obviously we'll take it. Before we move to the chat, guys, just very quickly, Disco first, and then George. What's your thoughts on the pen? I think he's talking about the one that Cooper, where he sort of brings or pulls their striker down. Doesn't it? Do you see that one? Did you?
Me or George?
Both of you, yeah. Whoever's first, yeah, go on.
I did. Well, look, there was a huge furore in the ground. They went bananas, and when you can tell something's happened, the way the players went mad. So, and we're thinking, I thought it was a handball. Was it handball? What have you? Anyway, we then got a text saying that he pulled someone back. And when you watch it, I mean, it's unbelievably obvious and lucky. In fairness, and I wouldn't normally do this, if I'm the referee. You watch where he is. He won't have seen it because he's behind. He's
behind Cooper.
He's the guy go down. So you can't expect the ref to give it.
Yeah.
I know you'd want to have be watching that. But who cares? Look, you'd be absolutely furious if it happened to us. But when it happens in your favour, you're over the moon. But we've had enough bad decisions, especially Cooper. So
it swings and roundabouts. George, would you agree with that? I mean, first, did you thought it was a penalty, and maybe the referee just didn't see it?
Yeah, I mean, it's been plastered all over the internet since, I think, ITV Football posted it on their social medias. Ref Watch, it even popped up on Ref Watch on Sky Sports as well the other week.
Really?
I mean, it's a blatant penalty.
What did they say, out of curiosity?
Well, funny enough, they said it was a stonewall penalty, which we obviously all agree. Funny enough. Yeah, I mean, it's as blatant as you can get, really. Cooper pulls him back. The referee's got a clear view, and he says play on and to rub.
Well, has he got a clear view, though, George? Because to Disco's point, he reckons that the referee's behind Cooper and maybe doesn't see his arm being reached around. So maybe that's probably why he didn't give it. And he just sees the guy go down theatrically, thinking he's just trying to play up to him,
Yeah. So maybe that's the case, and I know the referee did come out and apologise to the Stoke manager after. So he knew straight away. He did.
Right.
He
Okay.
knew
So
straight away.
we definitely got away with one there, didn't we? Well, I'll tell you what. If that's the point we need to get promoted this season, I'm all for it.
One thing I do know, Joe, this referee Coote, who's currently suspended, he wouldn't have given that if it was Liverpool. That's for sure.
I saw that poor guy.
What an idiot!
God, I know. Jeff says, anyone know what the personal reasons were when Watmore wasn't available for selection about a week or so ago? I think it was due to the birth of his child, wasn't it?
Yeah,
from memory. Yeah. He had a newborn, so Harris was kind enough to give him the game off.
He's right though, Jeff. They were a bit coy about it. They didn't sort of just say he's a baby. It was strange, but I think it was Jeff.
Yeah. Tony, hope you're well, mate. Says the Honey Badger 5 foot tall covering front post. I know, shocking, isn't it? Cole says Cooper pulled a Stoke player. Should have been a penalty and a red card. At least we had a decision go our way. That's right. It's not often that happens. Tony's going for 4-4-2 at home. Connor says Bradshaw had a lot more to offer against Stoke, which is something positive. I felt that as well, Connor. I did feel that he looked lively, and I think in a 2, you see a different type of Bradshaw. The last time I saw Bradshaw look that lively was when he had a phobia next to him, and you see him then he really flourished in that 2 up front role, didn't he? Jeff says, I definitely think we have a Neil Harris 2.0 version now. He's learned to play different formations rather than sticking to 4-4-2 like he used to in his early days as Millwall manager. You know what, Jeff? You're absolutely spot on there. I think he's very, very good tactically. I think he's improving. He's getting better as well. Also, he's getting braver to the point what the lads mentioned there earlier. He's getting braver now with squad rotation. The old Harris never used to do that, did he? He used to play the same team week in, week out. If you remember when he was last in charge, I always remember the team being very much like Morrison and Gregory up front. You had Aidan O'Brien, you had Jed Wallace, and whoever was playing, Sean Williams. And the team was very much settled week in, week out. And I think he's learned as a manager. I think he's improving, and he's gained that kind of understanding now that he realizes that by freshening it up, by replacing, 2 or 3 players here and there, you do get a better performance and maybe longevity over a long period of time as well. Paul Llewellyn, good to speak to you, mate. Good to see you. Hope you're well. Harris has shown that he now has the players to rotate the squad without losing the quality. Massive plus for a team that normally struggles with strength in depth. Absolutely, Paul. That's a great point. I think there was times before in the past when we mentioned it on here, didn't we, Steve, where he looked to the dugout to try and change the game, and literally he's there, his hands wide apart, thinking, "What do I do? I've got youngsters on the bench. I can't change it." So I think he feels that he's now a bit blessed with players that could come on. Tony says he will sign for us in Jan. Perfect cover for Sav and Neil Harris, mate from Cardiff. Yeah, although people say that Neil Harris didn't have him at Cardiff, so I don't think there's any affiliation there. To be honest with you, but yeah, I can't see why he wouldn't sign. Although with Mitchell back and the youngster, what's his name? Massey as well. And
Daniel Kelly as well.
Yeah,
Daniel Kelly and Bangura Williams coming through the youth setup as well. We are quite blessed in that department. So to George's point, is he just a plaster that we stuck over, kind of like fix a wound at the moment, losing Mitchell, and now with Mitchell back, we may not need him anymore. Who knows? But either way, if he does stay, I wouldn't be against it.
Wintle. Do we know?
I've got no idea. I'm sure he's probably like mid to late 20s. He ain't that old, is he? 27, 28, I think, from memory.
Yeah.
Jeff Cook says, spot on about Tanganga there, Disco. Connor says Kelly should have more minutes, to be honest. I agree. I think every time I've seen Kelly, he looks okay. He looks quite lively. But maybe, it's just with the pecking order at the moment. I think he sits quite far behind, sadly. Carl says Sav is on international duty. That's right, absolutely. And I think also Ivanovic is on international duty as well, as included Roman Essay, isn't he, for the under 20s. Tony says, I think once we reach 50 points, Harris will change things, mix things up. Yeah, good point, Tony. But then, is that not looking at it negatively? Is that looking at it as, well, we're going to get safety and therefore we're not caring about promotion? I don't know. I think Harris at the moment is looking up rather than looking down. I think that's where you've got to be in this league. You can't be looking down because that's when you get in trouble, don't you? I think, Rowett mentioned it before in previous conversations when he's been interviewed about that. Matt, good to see you, mate. It was Jaffet's man. He just switched off for a split second. These things happen sometimes. Yeah, you're right. Better to have Honeyman there than on a man. Well, yeah, I guess so. Although, to George's point, maybe we should have stuck him on a post along with the fullbacks, as that's where he might be able to add a bit more value. That front post, I think, is important to get someone's got a bit of a leap on them to cut those crosses out before it even gets to the danger zone. So, who knows? Let's hope we learn from our mistakes. Alex says, Lenny almost goes unnoticed now as we just expect his level of performance. Absolutely. And it's week in, week out as well, Alex, which is so hard to do. Although one thing I've learned or heard about Lenny, I don't know what you guys know as well, is that I don't think he trains as much as the rest of the squad. I think they realise with Lenny, you've got to be a bit careful with him, and they're kind of nurturing him a lot. So he gets a bit more rest than the others. And where players are working hard and training, I think he's doing more stretching, isn't he, and doing more work, more physio, which is probably the reason why, touch wood, he stayed injury-free such a long time. Matt says Stoke deserved the draw. Yeah. Probably deserved the win, to be fair, but yeah, draw's fine. Tony says 100%
on that, Joe. You say deserved the win. I tell you, and I heard a Stoke pod going on about if we play like that, we're going to tear up the season and what have you. And look, granted, they did look decent on the ball, passing it around, but without a shadow of a doubt, we let teams do that. Our game plan is we'll let you have and to be fair, a lot of the time they're playing it across the back four, coming into the centre, then going back again. They did then work it down the wings and what have you, but we do give teams the ball and let them have it. And much as it's working, I do have a little bit of caution with that, because the minute it goes pear-shaped, it'll look crap. When we lose a game 2-3-0 and we've had 20% possession, it's going to look pretty shit like it has in the past.
We do, Disco, but on the flip side of that, I think in previous games, we've let teams have maybe, 2 or 3 shots at goal, maybe 1 on target or none on target, and very little as an attacking threat. Although I must say, against Stoke, they had 8 shots, we had 8 shots. They actually had 3 shots on target, we had 1 on target, and they forced 9 corners to our 2. So although they had 72% possession, we only had 28% possession. Unlike other teams, they did try and cut through us a few times. I think the reason is they went a little bit more direct, whereas other teams try to keep it very, very short pass around the back, where at least Stoke mixed up a little bit. So they were a little bit more of a threat, I felt. Alex says, it's amazing how ITV, etc. post that, but no one, but not the ones on Coops that happen every week. It's true. Absolutely. Tony says, probably is when he refs us next game, he will definitely give a soft one against us, probably to make up for it now. Chris Brown, good to see you, mate. Hi, lads. Late to the party. No worries, mate. You can't be any later than Alex S over the last sort of few weeks, although he's shown you up because he's been on time for the last 2 weeks. Alex says Wintle is 27 years old. There you go. I said 27, didn't I? Tony says that was not meant to be a negative. Always looking up. Well done, Tony. And then Matt says the amount of running and chasing we do when out of position, we need to rotate. That's a very, very, very good point. Very, very good point. So, guys, the question I need to ask you, the elephant in the room is, and we'll start with you, George, because I know you're a big fan of it, is what did you make of the Light Show versus Leeds? What's your thoughts on that?
What's my thoughts? So the Light Show against Leeds, I think you got to look at it from both a fan's perspective and you got to look at it from the club's perspective. From the club's perspective, I think is it Max Mays? Maximays is the company,
the Belgian company, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, they've come in and there's obviously an agreement in place that we have this sort of theatrical light show, 3 games a season, one which was obviously the Leeds game. And what that does is obviously, at the end of the day, it's making the club money. There's obviously a rumour that it's making us a good couple of $100,000, maybe less, maybe more, I'm not too sure, but that's the rumour roughly. So if the club's making money from it at the end of the day, then you have to look at it from their perspective and say, either we're making or saving money, we're making a profit, etc. It's great for the football club. From the fans' point of view, I fully understand it because no one was sort of interrogated. No one was sort of there was no sort of like question asked. None of the supporters club was asked, etc. So from the fans' point of view, I can understand that they felt like they've been a little bit left out. But from my point of view, the actual light show itself, I was obviously at the game. I didn't mind it. I didn't like it either. I just didn't mind it. I did think it was quite cool. It's not Millwall. Don't get me wrong. It's not Millwall at all. And this is just the way modern football's going. Obviously, it's very like Americanized, isn't it? Loads of Premier League teams, of course, do it as well. They have these light shows before the game, even in the daylight. And so the music, like Tony just said, the music was predictable, but I didn't mind it, in all honesty. I'm not sure what your guys thought, so I wouldn't mind it. And for another 2 games this season, and I say it makes the club money. Yeah, I'm not overly too fussed about a few lights. Let's just say that.
No, it's interesting. And Disco, going back to George's point, I think a lot of fans at the beginning perhaps were against the idea without even seeing it first, And I'm not saying they're all for it now, but it seems to be a little bit more of a balance where, okay, they probably think, you know what, I don't mind it if we have to sort of do it, 2 more times a season, but no one's really sort of like moaning too heavily about it, or equally not really praising it too much. So sort of in the middle. What's your take on that? I don't know whether you had a chance to see it. Did you on a stream or something before the game?
Yeah, only on the telly, and then a couple of people have videoed it, so I saw their versions. You say the music as well. Come on, let's be a bit more original than that. Look, I said before we did it, it's not my cup of tea. George's comment is right. It's not very Millwall, is it? That's what's pissed people off. Hang on, we don't do this wokey. I love that, this wokey shit, as if it is anything woke about it, But I also, as I've said, buy into the fact that maybe kids would enjoy it and it gets, a bit of interest. I have to say, it was that. Don't care about the lights.
I've just seen Tay's comment say, "What's next? A drummer?" And then Chris Brown says, "I don't care about the lights, but you can stick your drum up your arsehole."
We'll never go down that route, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I thought, look, it seemed to split opinion. There was, the booing. There was the people that said, actually, it wasn't too bad. People who were absolutely not Millwall. I think it got a bit of an atmosphere going. And I've heard people say, when the lights actually went, it was quite dramatic and got a bit of, energy in the stadium. So I think they could work on it and maybe do it a bit better. Maybe some blue lights we talked about and a bit of different music and really make it unique. So I'm all right with it. I'm just a bit worried because I think, was it Callum on Twitter was sort of X was saying next time they're on, I've got to go on in my white suit and do the disco dance.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm not quite ready for that.
Hanging from one of the stands, shouldn't we, as well? That'll be something, wouldn't be something. Yeah. I mean, I guess, I think to your point there, Disco, I agree with you. I think maybe do something different. I liked it. I thought it was okay. I'm not against the idea. Would I want to see it every game? Probably not. But like you said, maybe with a blue light or a blue theme, something a little bit different, then maybe that'll be a bit more easy on the eyes. Maybe, I don't know. But interesting how football's changed. Let's go to the chat very quickly. So Alex Ness says, I'm the model pupil now. Well done, Alex. Well done, mate. And obviously I'll be monitoring you. So make sure you carry on getting you on time because if you slip up, I'll be on to you. Paul says, don't bother me either way if it brings money into the club, but fuck me, it was Paul. Reminded me of being in your bedroom as a kid, turn the light switch on and off. I remember those days. Try to make your own strobe, wouldn't you? So your mum and dad tell you off for breaking the light switch. I remember those days. But Paul, you've got a couple of kids, haven't you, Paul? And I think like myself, if you've got children that want to go to it, and I think if you're a parent, you don't mind it so much, do you? I think if you're a grown adult and you're there with your mates and you ain't got kids around with you, you might see it a little bit beneath you. But what we remember is we can't satisfy or please everybody, can we? As much as there'd be fans hating it, I'm sure equally there'd be fans that will absolutely love it as well. So it's only going to be another 2 more times a season. So let's see how that pans out. Carl says, I drink with a Leeds fan. He was gutted. Alex says, how does it make us money? I don't understand how a light show generates revenue. George?
I think it's to do with the fact that the company have come in and they've sponsored us. So by them sponsoring us, obviously we post their sort of brand, their
part of the agreement.
Their company. It's part of the agreement that we post their sort of brand in and around the stadium, and then we use their light show, and ultimately they give us money, they give us revenue for it. I think that's basically just how it goes. Excellent,
nice one. Cheers, George. Tony says young people. Stuff definitely not for us old kids. I'm glad you said that, Tony. Chris Brown said Disco Steve will have a glitter ball hanging over the pitch. That's exactly what I said. I know you too well, Disco, already, eh?
That's my favourite
comment. Guys, obviously international break at the moment. I was going to say good luck to Roman Esse, Saville and Ivanovic. Sticking with Ivanovic, George, there seems to be a bit of a striker pecking order at the moment. Obviously, with Bradshaw coming back and even starting against Stoke, we've now got 4 relatively fit strikers with Coburn, Bradders, Langstaff, Ivanovic. Firstly, what would be your preference as to who would start? And if it's not Ivanovic, who's not getting a lot of minutes at the moment, where do you see him falling? How is he going to develop and progress if he ain't getting many game time at the moment?
Yeah, I feel slightly sorry for him a little bit because he hasn't really had the opportunity. Yeah, started one game and that was after he scored his only goal, and since he scored at home to Derby, he's not really been given many minutes since. So I do feel sorry for him. I think what it is, I think it's just a case of just Neil Harris just letting him settle, letting him embed into the country, to the team.
He's 19, right? He's young.
He's 19. He's very, very young. It's a lot of pressure for £3 million as well. We're at a club record signing. It's a lot of pressure to put on young shoulders. So I genuinely just think he's just gone, listen, mate, your time's going to come. I'm just giving you time to sort of bed into the culture, to the country, learn a little bit of English maybe, and his chance will come. And you can see by the way he took his goal against Derby. Listen, he's extremely talented, and he's going to be a big and successful asset for us in the future. I just think Neil Harris is using his man management skills, which you have to trust, by the way. You have to trust Neil Harris in this situation. He's just using his man management skills and go, listen, your time will come, mate.
Yeah. If you're playing a lone striker, George, and you're playing a pair of strikers, what option? Who would you pick for those 2 options?
I think for a lone striker, I think the obvious one is probably Josh Coburn, because I think he suits the system. I think Neil Harris I think Neil Harris rates him extremely highly, and he suits the system because of his size, his stature. He can run the channels, he can hold the ball up, and for he starts 2 goals, he can obviously put the ball in the back of the net. So I think in terms of a lone striker, I think Josh Coburn suits that role better than say Langstaff does. If you're playing him in a 2. I think Macaulay Langstaff has to play in a 2, because I think him feeding off a big man like an Ivanovic or a Coburn, I think that's where you'll see him get a lot of goals.
So therefore, Bradshaw will fall below the pecking order in your preference. But obviously, Disco, Neil Harris is a big fan of Bradshaw, it seems, and we've learnt that over the years. And dare I say it, could he be a player that will be starting a lot of games for Neil going forward? How do you see the pecking order going in your eyes? What's your preference, and what do you see Harris doing going forward?
Yeah, look, first and foremost, going back to Ivanovic, I think like George has said, look, we're in a lucky position. We don't have to rush him in right now. Yeah. And I think, bringing him in gently, getting him, as you say, he's 19, in a new country, new area, let him bed in. As George said, part of that will be the man management of him. Because he will be getting frustrated and want to play more. And if Bomber is just exactly a great point, George, your time will come, mate. Trust me, your time will come. If he's doing that, he'll be fine. And he's away on international duty. So all that, he's going to be a player. There's no 2 ways about it. Yeah. In terms of I totally agree with George. Coburn's got to be number 1 in one up front. I think 2 up front, it's Coburn, Langstaff. I would love to see Langstaff in a 2, and I'm sure he'd love to play in a 2.
Especially with Coburn. We've seen him play with Ivanovic, I think, in a 2. Yeah. Or even with Bradshaw. I'm not sure now. But yeah, we haven't seen him up with Coburn yet, have we? So it'd be interesting how they pair up.
Without a doubt. So and look, I think from what happened Saturday, a lot of people are now thinking, oh no, Bradders is either first, second, or third choice for Bomber now. I'm not sure. I've got a mate who just is adamant Bradders his first choice, and he said as soon as he's fit, he'll be in. And when he was in Saturday, he was like, oh no, he's never going to hear the last of this. But I think that's a little bit of a false impression. It was the squad rotation, squad rotation and a bit of tactical. He probably thought Bradshaw rather than Ivanovic, for instance, who hasn't played as many minutes. So I still think it's Coburn, Langstaff, probably a toss-up between Bradders and Ivanovic. But for me, it would be Ivanovic and then Bradders. And that's not slagging off Bradders. You know, it's not me saying he's crap. Listen, that means that's how good we are now. You know, they're good players.
Yeah. And for the record, I agree with both of you. I think I'm in agreement with the same players in the same formation. If we're playing one, I'm going for Coburn. If we go for two, I'm going for Coburn and Langstaff, with Ivanovic slightly behind. But it'd be interesting to see what happens against Sunderland, whether Neil goes for Bradshaw. So who knows? Who will see. Disco, sticking with you still, but before we do, we'll go to the chat very, very quickly because I could just feel it's building up here again. We answered that one. So that's
You're right, Tony. You don't have to keep
surprised we didn't play Saturday night music.
The request is in, Tony.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't pay 2.5 million to put Ivanovic on the pitch. Yeah, on the bench. I think he means on the bench. Yeah, you do mean the bench. Yeah. Alex says, I like the BFS, but when you see Coburn, you see the levels. Yeah, absolutely. He does. I'm a big fan of Coburn, and you just see where you need to be at. And he's had good grounding, isn't he, Coburn? I think he's had a good academy coming through. He's learned it the right way. He's got some good championship experience under his belt as well. So who knows? I'm not sure if it was you, Disco, and just said on the last live that maybe Neil is using Coburn as a bit of a mentor for Ivanovic. They see them as very sort of similar style players. They're both big, both quite mobile as well. Maybe he wants Ivanovic to sort of almost study Coburn a little bit and watch how he plays and look at how he's quite aggressive and good in the air, how he can run at players, So it's not a bad player to learn from, is it? Albeit he's only, 2 years older, which is astonishing. Jeff says, I think Ivanovic in Harris' eyes is for next season. I honestly believe if you play Langstaff with Coburn, he will score a hatful. I think so. I agree. Hughes says, TikTok George spot on about the BFS. He can learn from Coburn and needs time. Yeah, well done, Hughesy. TikTok George is in a agreement with you there. Tony says, we have to go all out to keep Coburn. Absolutely. I think we all agree with you on that one, Tony.
Sorry, Joe. Yeah. On that point, doesn't it just show you how amazing it is that he's coming into us and we're trying to keep it under the radar, so we're hoping no Borough senior people are watching it, which they won't be. But, to think Borough have let him go out on loan and we're looking at him as we've got to buy this player. He is fantastic.
Yeah.
He is.
I think it's more of a... It sounds like it's more of a Carrick preference, isn't it? I think Carrick, he wants to play that possession passing football, and he doesn't see Coburn fit into his style, although Coburn fits into our style very, very well, doesn't he? So who knows? I'm hoping there's a deal to be done there. They might need to cash in on him if they want to buy some more players themselves. So hopefully, if there's still money left over from the Fleming sale, if SA leaves in January and we can raise even more money, then I think we've got to go out there and try and get him within reason. Of course, we can't go too mental and pay all the odds for him.
What would you go to now, Joe? Say it quietly. Sorry, what would you go to now?
I mean, how much you say we pay for Ivanovic, George? Was it 3 million for Ivanovic?
3 million.
3 million. I think you could afford, if the money's there, I think you could 5. Really?
Would you? I
don't think we've got 5 in our locker to go for it. I think if we can beat the 3 million, go 3.5, I'll pay 3.5. I think anything more than that is a little bit too much for Coburn and more for us really at the moment. I'm not saying he's not worth it, but we don't want to bankrupt ourselves, do we, over one player?
We just got 200 grand from the lights. Can we throw that in as well?
We could do, yeah. Carberry said, I would play Coburn and Langstaff together.
Yeah.
James Braun says, Cooper should have had a penalty when he had his shirt ripped off his back. Yeah, agree. Chris says, if it makes Bradder's first or second choice, it will be his downfall. I agree with you there, Chris. Why not play 2 big lumps up front like Teddy and Cass? They made it work. Absolutely. This might be a little bit before George's time. But in the late 80s, George, I don't know if you remember, or you probably don't remember, you're probably a little sperm going around your dad's ball bag at the time. But we used to have 2 lumps of Teddy Sheringham and Tony Cascarino up front. And to Tony's point, these were 2 big old-fashioned centre forwards. If you're a defender, you would not want to play against these 2. But that was Millwall back then. We were very, very direct, 4-4-2, hit it long to Cass and Sheringham, and they made shit happen, basically, didn't they, Tony? The good old days, Tony, the good old days. Alex S says, if Borough go up, I can't see him wanting Coburn, but other teams will. It's true. Spot on. Disco. Next point I want to mention before we wrap things up, forgotten players is a subject on this one. The likes of Imarku and Wes Harding, we're not getting their names mentioned a lot at the moment. We're not even seeing a lot of them at the moment. I mean, Hardy, you can kind of half understand because Harris ain't going to rotate our defenders too much. And when occasionally, when he wants to add a defender in, he's been bringing Hutch in for the last 5 minutes, sort of shore things up at the back. But Imarku, where do you see it going wrong from him? What's the reason why he's not playing in your eyes at the moment?
Look, you can argue we haven't really needed him, and I know people will say, you're joking, when he takes SA off or Aziz off, he could swap him on, and he could, without shadow of a doubt. And let me be really clear, I'm a big Imarku fan, and he is a really special player, without a doubt. He's had a tough time, absolute choker. He had that sending off, which knocked him back even further. I know there's this thing that Harris don't fancy him and Harris don't like him and da-da-da. He's on the bench every week at the minute. So I know he's not coming on, but he's in the squad. I think if he didn't rate him, didn't like him at all, he wouldn't even have him on the bench. And I know that's like I'm saying, hang on, but he hasn't come on. If he needed him to come on, he would put him on. So I think there's still a player there. It's that age-old challenge of, look, could we utilise him more and get the benefit of him? Yes. But the reality is how we're playing at the moment and the results we're getting and the players that we're using. I know I'll upset a few people. He's better off going out on loan, which was the plan for him at the beginning of the season anyway. And for the simple reason, first choice every week. He needs to be first choice every week, playing lots of games, having the tough games as well as the easier games, and really develop him as a player. Not so we then lose him, just to develop. And in fairness, Bomber always says, doesn't he? We have to do what's right for the player and for the club. And I think at the minute that would probably be right for him. And I think he could flourish. I don't want him to go. I want him to flourish as a player and get some minutes. He's not playing minutes at all.
I agree. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Disco. George, what's your thoughts? Obviously, we probably know that Hardy ain't going to be here in January. He'll probably go over a loan or sold off somewhere. But what's your thoughts on the Marco situation? And would you want to see more of him? Can you understand why Harris ain't playing him at the moment? What's your thoughts on where do you see him going in January?
I think it's a bit of everything. I agree with Steve in the sense that he's destined for a loan now in January. He has to go out on loan and get regular game time towards the back end of the season from January onwards. He's clearly not been in Neil Harris's good books. I mean, obviously since that red card and since he returned from suspension, he hasn't actually featured once. He's had 0 minutes. So I'd argue maybe there's a potential attitude problem involved. That I'm not going to sit here and assume or put that on a Matthew's name. Of course not. But he's clearly not in Neil Harris's good books for one reason or another. And obviously the form of Watmore, who scored plenty of goals at the start of the season. Aziz has really started to impress and come into his own. And of course you've got Romain Esse, who's going to start every single week, ain't he? These days, he's
almost first player on the team sheet now, isn't he?
He's the first on the team sheet, so it's hard for Amaku to get back in now, especially, and obviously up front, maybe we've got plenty of options up front. So I think he's destined for a loan. Wes Harding as well, obviously destined to probably go on loan or get sold in January as well. Feel a bit sorry for Harding. I do feel a bit sorry for him because you can tell he's a good lad. He's a good egg around the dressing room.
And you know what, with Harding, I felt he struggled a little bit in the Joe Edwards system because he was asked to play out the back quite often, wasn't he? Usually in a back three, I think, as well. And I would love to see Harding playing in a tight back four, in a Neil Harris back four. You know, where you got to be a bit of a no-nonsense defender, you know, just defend, give the ball, you know, to the better players that let them sort of do the work for you. I'd love to see him playing. But at the moment, that'll be to the detriment of either Cooper or Tanganga, George. And I don't know whether or not Wes is that important player for us to sort of disrupt that partnership at the moment.
No, yeah, and I agree. And say Tanganga and Cooper are sort of irreplaceable, if that makes sense. They're going to play every single game if deemed fit. The other one, what Alex just said that in the chat there, another forgotten player, which we've completely forgotten about, is of course Adam Mayer, who's just come back from injury. Was out for a long time at the start of the season, got injured in pre-season and has come back recently, been training, played a couple of games for the under 23s. And see with our squad being sort of everyone's near enough fully fit, it's hard to sort of see Mayer in a position in that starting 11. So I think he's another one which could potentially go out online, which I think would do him the absolute world of good, just to get minutes, just to play regularly again, enjoy his football for a little bit, come back as a better player with more experience, and then crack on again next season maybe.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, guys, we're coming to the end.
Quickly say, look, I agree there. Look, Mayer's a player I'd really like to see. I've just got a feeling he'll have something about him. Playing 100 games at Division 2, you'll have something about you as a youngster, you know. So he'll be able to take the nitty gritty of football and what have you. And I would say, Bomber mentions him quite. I know he's only talking about him coming back to fitness and what have you, but
he's in the forefront of his mind, look, isn't he?
And saying he's nearing fitness and he could have a part to play. So maybe he will be around the first team rather than going on loan. I don't know.
Interesting,
I wanted to say on Imaku, you know, and I'll stand corrected as we're going off air so nobody can dig me out for it. But just have a look back. I don't think he starts a lot for Ireland. He's under 21s, isn't he? Ireland.
Yes.
I don't think he starts a lot, you know. He's sub for them. No, or he did last season. So you think, where the guy Sinclair from QPR is first choice. Well, not QPR, he's at Bristol now, isn't he?
Yeah. Interesting.
So that's worth thinking. Hang on, there's something there. But I go back to, I'm a big fan and I want him to stay and be a success. I think he will.
Me too. Guys, we're going to wrap up soon. So let's go through his comments very quickly. So Tony says, well, we did have Kelly and Carter. That's right. So that's Kevin O'Callaghan and Jimmy Carter on as great wingers to supply them. Very, very true. Very true. Chris Brown says Cooper is okay in the air, but is a three-legged donkey tackling on the ground. It's true. Alex says, totally agree. Disco. There you go. Do you think Mayer could go out on loan, which is the point that George and yourself answered to? So who knows? Chris has a good point here. Should never have let Alex Mitchell go. I mean, I think we all kind of agree with that one. But then again, had we have kept him, would he have gotten ahead of Tanganga? Would he have gotten ahead of Cooper? And sometimes, to Disco's point, Harris did say many times before, you've got to do what's right for the player and what's right for the club. And maybe reluctantly, that's what Alex Mitchell had to do. He wanted first team football. We couldn't give him that. It was either go out on loan or sell him. You know, and I think we've sold him. I think we've got some kind of clause in his contract, which means that if he gets sold again, we get some money out of it as well. So hopefully it helps us and him. Tony W says, what about Kelly? Yep. Again, we touched on that one, Tony. And he's a little bit behind the pecking order at the moment. So he could go out on loan as well, potentially, couldn't he? Carl Brater says, I think West doesn't have a future at Millwall. He needs to move on. I think so. It's a sad. He's been a great servant to our club, but you've seen his performances and when he has played. He's not the player he once was, unfortunately. He seems to have lost a yard of pace, sadly, which is a bit of a shame. Jeff Chandler says, brilliant stuff again, boys. Don't forget to subscribe, everyone, if you haven't done so already. Jeff, thanks for reminding me on that. I keep forgetting. Again, guys, if you listen to our live show at the moment and you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel and give this a like, if that's okay. It doesn't cost you anything. It takes you 2 seconds just to like it and subscribe. And even if you just comment on there, just put a little comment on there on the YouTube link, because all this helps the algorithms. It helps bring more people to the channel. And as you know, guys, I'm pretty sure you know, most of you know this already. Any profit we make on this channel, on this show, goes to Cancer Research UK. None of us get paid for this. Not even Chaps himself who runs the actual channel. So we're doing this voluntary. We do it because we love doing what we're doing. We love talking about Mill. We're very, very passionate about what we do. And we like to bring you the content. So all you can do, if you like what we do, is just give us a like, give us a subscribe, and hopefully that will help the algorithms and help us get more money. So all the money we make goes to Cancer Research UK. So cheers, Jeff, for bringing that. I appreciate that. Connor says, I can see Wallace, Hutch, Truman, Bradshaw and Harding going into the season. Yeah, I can. If not sooner, Connor. If not sooner. Guys, we're coming to the end. But just to sort of end things off, George, Neil Harris, we're approaching Christmas almost. He's only got a few months left of his contract to the end of the season. No one's mentioned about renewing his contract. Yeah, he doesn't like talking about it. As you know, whenever the question's asked to him, he always refers to his answer. I'll sign an 18-month contract, and that's it. He doesn't really elaborate more than that. Firstly, do you think Millwall should be offering an extension, whether it be now or the end of the season? And secondly, do you think he's going to sign it?
I think it would be incredibly, incredibly silly to not offer him a contract extension. I think would be extremely silly. Say, obviously, the stats speak for himself. Since he joined the club in February, rejoined the club, only Leeds now, because obviously they won the weekend and we got a point, but only Leeds have taken more points than us since he came in. We're top of the form table currently, 7 games unbeaten, top of the form table. Like we mentioned earlier, in terms of the style of football, he's gone away and he's improved, he's developed his managerial skills and his tactics, and we're sitting very comfortably in the Championship as a good, solid team who are extremely hard to beat. He's got the Den back again. We're very good at home, upsetting these big sides. And if he's not offered a contract extension, we're missing something here. We are seriously missing something. And obviously there's a debate whether or not he signs it. And obviously mentioned there, Alex, we've seen Coventry sack Mark Robbins, which is just remarkable, really. Obviously there's no real loyalty in football these days. And could Harris potentially be talked about for a job at Coventry? I'm not too sure. I think Neil Harris is a Millwall man. He's Millwall through and through. He can go to any other club in the country, but he won't have the same passion as he does managing Millwall. So he's got to sign. Neil Harris he's got to sign for me.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with you there, George. Thanks for that, mate. And Disco, do you agree with what George says? Obviously talked about him experiencing himself as a manager, the fact he's learnt more, he's developed as a manager, he's getting his tactics right, he's getting his formation changes. We've also even talked about his man management skills, the fact he seems to get the best out of his players. He gets every last percent out of them, doesn't he? I mean, what's your thoughts on Neil Harris? Do you think we should be offering him an extension? Whether we should do it now, whether we should wait to the end of the season, and would he even sign it? What's your thoughts on that?
I think in a way, Joe, it's becoming a little bit frustrating and a little bit of a distraction right now to even be talking about it, isn't it? But it's right, we are, because it is only till the end of the season, isn't it? And as you say, very clear. I'm here for 18 months. I always thought, well, he's going to go upstairs and have a managing director role, manager, football director, or director of football role, etc. But the club's changing its approach and what have you, so I'm not sure that fits. So for me, look, we should be offering a new contract. If not straight away now, we can't go past January, really, because it's just creating uncertainty. Like the point's been made by Alex there, you start then getting rumours of his name getting mentioned with other teams. That we don't need that nonsense.
No, that's true. That could disrupt our flow, couldn't it?
Absolutely. And in the same point, look, Bomber should be signing it as well. Even if he's not sure, he's never had a better squad of players. It's only going to get better. He's in a good place. The fans love him. He loves the club. Where and
the players love him. The players, they all come out. They all say what a great manager he is and how much they want him to stay, don't they? So
types, isn't it? You get your Bertie Big Bollocks and your little whimpering player, and he can just galvanise people, especially at our club. So we should really get into science, should get into and get a bit more stability. It's a little bit, it's not total uncertainty, but we shouldn't even be having this conversation right now. That should be way up.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I appreciate your comments, guys. Obviously, be interested in your comments in the chat. Whether you feel Neil Harris should be getting a contract now rather than wait till the end of the season, making a decision then. So, I'd be interested to get your thoughts. Hughes, he says that let's wish Kenny Jackett a speedy recovery. I know he stepped down from his role, didn't he, at Gillingham? Was that due to ill health? Was it? I haven't actually read that yet, so apologies. But yeah, obviously, Kenny Jackett. Hope you're okay, and hope he makes a recovery. Chris says, I wish Harris would sort out a better assistant manager. From what I've heard, Livermore is a top guy. And I think there's a reason why Neil's always picked him wherever he goes and follows him as the assistant manager. Apparently, he's really, really good in training, like in drills and things like that. He's a very good number 2 to Harris. And sometimes, managers need that kind of yin and yang, didn't you? What you're good at and what you're not so good at, you need someone to kind of fill the void. And apparently Neil believes that Livers fills that void for him very, very well, whether that be, the training side of things, who knows, but at the moment it's working.
I think I want to hear a little bit more about those black caps.
What, I can't hear you, Disco. You're a bit muffled.
They have to have a word with Livermore about his black cap, his black trainers, and right, bloody nerd.
I know. So Chris says, sorry, I thought Barrett. Okay, my bad. Carl Brace says, Neil Harris should get a 5-year contract. I like to see that. Callum Jackson says, Ian lads, sorry I'm late. Steve, expecting you at next night show, mate. Harris got to stay, in my opinion. Cheers for that, Callum. I think Disco just mentioned you, Callum, as well early in the show. You want to listen to it back, guys. I think we're there. So. We've been on here for almost an hour and a half now. We keep saying every bloody week we must keep it under an hour, and unless George is frozen on his stream, that was falling asleep. But we've gone on a bit too long, unfortunately. But I'm hoping you guys didn't mind us waffling on as long as we have done, because I've enjoyed it. And sometimes, we always say, we want to wrap things up sooner, but if the show's flowing and we've got something to talk about, then why cut it short? So. As long as you guys don't mind, we're happy to be here. But to wrap things off, George, we'll go to you first. And again, guys, if you're watching the show at the moment and you're on TikTok, make sure you follow George on TikTok. He's at george.c9. Follow him for Millwall content. He's the best out there on TikTok discussing Millwall. Watch him, subscribe to him, follow him. And I'm sure you'll see his face a lot more on TikTok if you do so. So, George, just wrapping things up yourself, mate. Anything you want to add before we close up?
No, obviously, thank you for having me again. Hopefully I did as good a job as Angelo does. But I say always good to come on the channel and say, obviously, the international break for Millwall has probably come at the wrong time. 7 games unbeaten, but looking forward to the Sunderland game in a few weeks. Should be a good occasion against top of the league on a Saturday. Should be a good atmosphere. So. Just looking forward to the season resuming after the international break. But it was a pleasure to be here again, chaps, and sit down with you and talk all things Millwall. I've very much enjoyed it.
Brilliant. Cheers, George. I really appreciate you stepping in and helping out for poor old Angelo, who's suffering with a serious, honestly, I can't stress anymore, a serious case of man flu, guys. And unfortunately, women don't quite get it, do they, sadly? But he's really struggling at the moment, bless him. And I will check on him to make sure he's still alive after we finish our recording and report back with some good news hopefully soon. So, George, thanks a lot. I really appreciate you coming in. Sea Lion Sound System, really appreciate it, mate. Thank you very much. I'm sure you have subscribed, Sea Lion already. If you haven't, please do so. Please like this and help us with our algorithms. Alex says, cheers, fellas. Been great as always. Really appreciate Alex. Take care, mate. I'm going to be watching maths later with yourself, I'm sure, after this. And Disco, just want to end things off yourself. Anything you want to say before we wrap up?
Yeah, look, great show, Joe. Well done. Hosted brilliantly as always. George, brilliant. You did really well, mate. It's great to have you on. Angelo, if you're watching, we miss you, mate. And we do wish you a really speedy recovery. We know you're really going through it with such a real tough bout of man flu. So best of luck to you. Guys, look, it's a bloody great time to be a Millwall fan. We're unbeaten, we're winning games, we're good to watch mainly. You know, that last week was phenomenal. Thank you to the team and Bomber for giving us a great week, especially Burnley and particularly Leeds. We didn't have Eze on tonight. Was it Eze or Eva, or the guy last week, the Leeds fan who was talking, coming on?
Yeah, that's true. It give us a bit of shit, wasn't he, last week, saying how Leeds are going to beat us and stuff. But we didn't see him this week, did we, Sadly? I did welcome him back. I did so happy to come back and carry on the chat. But
good times. Listen, let's enjoy it, and hopefully it continues. As George says, a great game for us to have back, first game back, which I'm confident we'll get a good result with a clean bill of health, or definitely. So, cheers, Joe.
Excellent. And Jeff just adding to that, saying, loving George and his laid-back analysis. Compliments, Disco Steve. Brilliant, excellent. And guys, I'm sure you've probably seen it as well. So George is sort of taking the seat now when it comes to the kind of, what do you call it, George? Behind enemy lines when you talk to the teams, the previews with the other teams.
The opposition view. So before every game, Chris would ask me to do the opposition view, where he would get a member from a podcast or a channel from the opposite team, and I'll go on and I'll talk to them about 20-30 minutes long. But they're good fun. They're good to get some insight into the opposition before the game, for sure.
Yeah, excellent. And again, guys, I'm sure you have watched them. If you haven't, make sure you get to watch them. He's making it his own now. So before you know it, you won't need Chris Chapman anymore. It'd just be a name. He'll be a myth. No one actually know who he is. I'm only joking. Obviously, Chris, as you know, still does the reviews of the games, and he's so good at it. And despite all the things that goes on in his personal life with work and God knows what, he still puts a lot of hours into this, doing all the editing and the film work. So well done, Chris, and well done you two as well. Thank you very much.
Oh, sorry,
yes,
mate. And I don't know if you're going to do it. Do we need a plug for? Is there going to be a review or something coming up? Are we likely to?
There is. I think at the moment we're going to do something on Thursday, I believe. It could be for a October review, but I'll let Chris Chapman announce it just to make sure. I'm not sure it's going to be a live one. It could be a live, or it could be a pre-record. So I'm sure you'll find out, guys, on the socials. If you ain't following Chat with Chaps on Twitter, or X rather, do that. And I'm sure you'll hear about it soon. But we are going to be doing a recording or a live on Thursday where we discuss the October. So that's it from us, guys. Really appreciate you being with us. Really enjoyed it. I don't know about you guys, but I absolutely loved it. And we'll see you next Tuesday at 8 p.m. as we will discuss the preview of Sunderland coming up the following week. So all the best, guys. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now.
Bye for now.